It's all secrets and lies with those ponies. That was Bloo Boi with Grave Fission. Hey there friends, I'm Storybook and welcome back to a nuclear reading show. Today, we're continuing Somber's Fallout Equestria Project Horizons. If you're enjoying what I'm bringing to the Wasteland, don't be afraid to tell your friends about me, or find me on Blue Sky as Nuclear Yuki. You could also do us a great favour and check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/ANRS. This story does include some graphic scenes that may be distressing to some people. Your own discretion in listening is advised. Oh, and also, since the gangs are still being feisty, Fallout is owned by Bethesda, and Hasbro made My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. With all that said and done, welcome, friends, to the Wasteland.
Chapter 19. Identity. I'm starting to wonder. Am I still Blackjack? Sure, my cutie mark is the same queen and ace. I still have the same security barding, modified and very patched up though it is. I'm still not the smartest pony, and I have a terrifying habit of stringing together half-baked ideas on the fly and then calling them a plan. I'm still as mule-headed as ever. That will never change. But since I've left the stable, I've killed ponies. I did that before too, only I painted it with colourful euphemisms like taking out of service and defending myself to their death. Now, I just killed. Plain and simple. With shotgun and carbine and fire axe and my bare hooves if I needed to. I was also more concerned with survival. In Stable 99, every pony knew that the stable was one hard sneeze from failure. Now I had ponies that would kill me for bottle caps. Heck, even the very land itself would kill me. There was already a time bomb inside me that might finish me, or maybe mutate me and then kill me. Still, at least spending most of my time almost dead made the few poor bits I had left feel a lot better. Relatively. There have been some changes in me too. I think a little more. I know that I'm still not a smart pony though. I don't just know things. I don't pick up on them as I should. I can shoot things and hit things and that's about it. I find that I care a little more. It's funny to think of myself as less callous outside the stable than inside it, but it's true. I feel bad for ponies who are trying to kill me. How crazy is that? They're trying to kill me, and I feel bad for them about it. Maybe it's not that I'm changing. Maybe I'm just realizing that the pony who lived in that stable wasn't who I thought she was. But if she wasn't, then just who is she? It would take us a while to get down from the top of the exchange. Walking wasn't the problem. My legs were strong enough, and Deus's final moments had knocked down so much of the walls that we had plenty of slopes we could scramble down. The problem was simply summoning up the will to stand and make our way to the streets below. While I kept staring out at the rain, P21, ever practical, went to dig out Taurus and check his belongings. I couldn't fault him for that. Some scavenger would come by sooner or later for them. The duffel bag carried a few missiles and a dozen rounds for his hunting rifle. I had to admit, that rifle was a beautiful weapon. The stock was made of well-worn and oiled tan wood with a brand of a bull on the stock. The action slid like silk, with only the softest rasp, and the scope was cleaner and truer than my assault carbine. I ejected the clip, looking at the armor-piercing rounds that had tried to bring down the technomagical monster and failed. I'd done no better. In the end, it was P21's bomb and gems sacrificed that had mortally crippled Deus, and his own weapons that had finished him. I had so many reasons to be happy for his death, so why wasn't I? I doubted that any bounty hunters would be after me now that he'd been finished off. Heck, technically this made me a reaper. No pony would mess with me now, right? He'd violated my stable and made my life a living hell with the price he'd placed on my head. He'd threatened my friends and mocked a mortally wounded Minnie. So why wasn't I dancing in the street right now and singing, "Ding dong, the Deus is dead"?
I don't know,
answered the old pale horse sitting beside me on the ledge, slowly working the cards between his hooves as he looked at me with his sad, milky old eyes.
Shut up! I'm in no mood for crazy right now.
I said softly as I closed my eyes.
I reckon not, but here I am.
He chuckled. I rubbed my eyes, then glanced over at him again. The cards hissed softly between his hooves.
What is this supposed to accomplish? I get it, Taint is driving me nuts. So what's with all the spooky little card metaphors?
He just smiled and shook his head.
Oh, well, us hallucinations need to do something to keep things interesting. Otherwise, some ponies just don't think,
he said as he dealt 5 cards to me and 5 to himself.
You know why you're not happy, don't you? Deus wasn't exactly the brains of the operation, was he?
Don't look. Don't look.
No. Sanguine. And whoever is employing him.
I sighed. He'd told me to listen to the recordings, and I had. The cards were right in front of me. I just couldn't help myself. I slowly picked them up, looking at the spread. I didn't have any idea what game we were playing now. A pink mare with a curly mane was balancing on a ball at the edge of a cliff. A cupcake in one hoof and a present in the other. A white alicorn grasping a pair of scales with a sad expression. A pair of red eyes peeking out of a cage of 9 swords. An empty bottle of wild Pegasus with 8 upside-down shot glasses on a bar with a mare silhouetted in a doorway. A purple mare hanging by her rear hoof from a rusted streetlight.
I think I got a flush,
I muttered, glancing at him.
Why can't my fucking broken brain just play things straight for once?
You tell me. It's your brain.
The old stallion chuckled as he put down his spread next to mine. A moon overlooked by a sad young black alicorn. A handsome unicorn stallion smiling, his mane and horn a bright yellow. The black towers of Hoofington wreathed in green light. 6 swords piercing the clouds with upturned blades. A yellow Pegasus with a long, beautiful pink hair, sitting before a pool and hugging a strange little blue and green ball in her hooves. I couldn't tell if the card was upside down or not.
I'm sure this is all fascinating and chock full of meaning and mystery, but you should know that I'm not a smart pony. I just don't get stuff like this.
I sighed, closing my eyes.
I don't understand anything anymore. Why can't I do anything? I can't protect Glory. I can't make everything right with P21. I can't understand Rampage. I can't even be happy that one of my enemies is dead.
I slowly lay back, rubbing my face with my hooves.
And on top of it all, I'm having conversations with crazy hallucinations that give me mysterious, creepy cards.
Blackjack? Glory asked softly. Who are you talking to?
Just myself, Glory.
I sighed, looking over and seeing that he was gone. I sat up and looked at her again. Her eyes were dull and lost. What could I ask? Are you okay? Of course she wasn't. How are you feeling? She was miserable. Finally, I sighed, stood, and walked to her.
What can I do to help, Glory?
You can't call me that anymore, she replied softly. I closed my eyes, wishing that I could turn her elder sibling into a feathered duster.
You don't have to listen to her, Glory.
I have 4 sisters, Blackjack, she said. Dusk is the oldest, then Moonshadow, then me. Lucent and Lambent are younger. My father lives on his pension through the Enclave. Dusk is an Enclave security officer. Moonshadow is in research. Blue and Lamb are in Enclave schools. Do you know what a family member turning Dashite will do to them? She asked. I shook my head dumbly. My father will be forced to disown me publicly. Maybe he already has. Otherwise, he loses his home, his income, everything. My family would be forced to live on some feral cloud near the Everfree Forest. Or worse, come down here to survive. Moonshadow might have been bumped from whatever project she's working on, and I know the kind of trouble Lou and Lamb are getting from their classmates.
How could they do that? How could the Enclave betray you but be so hard on Pegasi strong enough to walk away from that?
Walking away isn't strong, she snapped back at me. Sticking it out, backing your fellow Pegasi, doing what must be done, that is strength, she said firmly. The Enclave didn't betray me, Lighthooves did. And every single time some Pegasus goes Dashite, they completely destroy everything Rainbow Dash wanted to do. Like they decided to drop her loyalty and courage and become the greatest egotists of the Pegasi. There was one a few years back, a real high-profile case. Deadshot Calamity, a legend in the security forces, the kind of pony who could have really forced the council to engage with the surface. He gets an audience in front of the Pegasus Council. Does he call for opening contact with the surface? No. Does he say we should trade food and medicine to the surface? No. Instead, he spends half an hour calling the entire council cowards, featherbrains, and negligent murderers. Then, when his wing went looking for him to beg him to reconsider, he killed them. She shouted and stamped to her hooves. That featherbrained idiot almost single-hoovedly destroyed 10 years of work getting the volunteer corps established. So, I know just how damaging what Lighthooves did was. And every time there's a report mentioning the Dashite Morning Glory, Dusk's career falls a little more behind. Every time a news release talks about Dashites, Lambent and Lucent will suffer the mutters and glares of their classmates. The only way my family gets to have any real peace is if I am dead. Dusk gave me a choice. Die for pretend, or die for real.
Your own sister would kill you?
The idea chilled me. It was like killing Mum. She was going to before you stopped her, Morning Glory replied softly. But she gave me a choice instead, and that was generous of her.
So you're giving up?
Of course I'm not giving up. I have to find some way to stop Lighthooves and expose him for what he's doing. Not because he wronged me, but because he wronged the Enclave. I can't believe that he's operating with the blessing of the Pegasus Council. And if I can prove my loyalty and clear my name, then maybe I can be Morning Glory again. She sat up and sighed. Till then, I'll have to be some pony else, she said as she stood, looking out at the drizzling rain.
Morning Glory,
I said softly, looking at her burned-away cutie mark and that pale brand on her flank. Did losing your cutie mark change you? Had it changed P21, or was there a unique mark underneath the spell 99 had put on his flanks? Fallen Glory, she corrected quietly. Then she looked at me with a sad smile as the rain dripped off her purple mane. I think it's Dashite-esque enough name. And besides, you can still call me Glory. You and P21 are the only ones that really do.
Glory, you don't have to do this,
I whispered, looking into her hurt eyes, just like Minnie's. I couldn't shake the thought that this was some kind of suicide. Bloodless, but no less wrong. Her lips trembled as she closed her eyes. It's better this way. What did I have left that was Morning Glories anyway? My career and reputation are gone. My family is ruined. My sister wants to kill me. I don't even have my... She clenched her eyes and teeth in a hiss of pain. I couldn't tell what was rain and what was tears anymore. She drew a shaky breath. All I have are my friends. That's more important to me than any name. Her round, wet eyes stared up at me, begging me to accept it. Accept her. What could I do? Everything about this felt wrong, but... I put my hooves around her and murmured,
if this is what you really want, Fallen.
She gave a little sob. It wasn't, but it was what she thought she had to do. When she stopped crying, I took a deep breath and gave her a look of stoic determination.
I also have to confess something. A grave and dark secret from my past. Something I've not told any pony.
I said, watching her eyes get round as she braced herself. I took a deep breath.
My name, the secret, true name of the security mare, is... Go Fish.
She blinked at me in confusion. Then I let out a snirk and curled my lips in a smile. She let out a hiccuping little giggle, then another one. Finally, we both broke out in laughter. I guess you had a really big aquarium in '99, huh? She said as she gasped for air. I just smiled and nuzzled her forehead. She didn't get the joke. She was still my glory, no matter her name. When Stable 89 opened its doors, they found me in the tub. Despite being battered and banged and bloody, the cast iron tub in the middle of the street proved surprisingly comfortable as I lay back and occasionally refilled it with water from a nearby spout. The cute little security mares poked their heads out of the parking garage and stared at the bodies filling the street and the rubble of the top floors of the exchange. I raised my almost empty bottle of Wild Pegasus at them.
Hey!
I called out with a nice, inebriated smile, and they disappeared back inside.
I say something wrong?
I asked P21 as he came limping up with his duffel bag. With a pull, I emptied the bottle.
Probably didn't expect us to hang around.
P21 said as he set the bag down and unzipped it.
No honor in the Wasteland, it seems. Any pony who wasn't killed stripped most of the good gear before running. Still, I found a few with some useful things.
He scooped up 2 hooffuls of bullets.
9mm and 20 gauge shells.
I muttered as I poured my hoof through the collection of ammo. Still, maybe we could sell or exchange them for something more substantial. I wanted some more clips for the hunting rifle.
Automatic pistols, revolvers. Oh!
I said, sitting up.
An IF-33 Applebuck.
I picked out the weapon and immediately drew back the slide.
12.7mm rounds, semi-automatic firing, 7-round clip.
I pointed it away from any pony and gave a small frown.
Been through the wash a few times, though. Let me guess. No more 12.7?
Ask your pit buck. I just collect the bullets. Those are short, those are long, those are round and plastic. That's about all I can do.
He said with a smirk.
Right. Sorry.
And a dozen sticks of dynamite, some frag grenades, a few landmines, and this.
He said as he pulled out a half-full bottle of whiskey.
Oh, gimme!
I said with a grin, holding out my hooves.
You are a gentle colt and a scholar.
I said as I swirled the contents and took a pull. Letting out a sigh, I sang in whatever key I stumbled into.
Oh, rain may fall and the wind may blow. The earth can quake or clouds bury us in snow. But as bad as they are, there's one thing I know with friends and whiskey is how I plan to go.
He winced.
Blackjack, that was terrible.
You're just jealous that I'm a mare of many hidden talents.
I said primly.
I also found this.
He said as he pulled out the dark, wickedly curved claw.
My dragon claw.
I said gleefully, giving him a hug and licking his cheek. I have to admit, I have never seen a stallion that stiff before. I could use him as a baseball bat. He shoved me off, looking confused.
Your dragon claw?
He asked, scrubbing where I'd licked. I lifted it up with my magic and inspected it. Still harder and sharper than anything else I'd ever encountered.
I picked it up at a museum and dropped it on the way here. I thought it was gone forever.
I lay back in the tub and took a pull off the bottle.
I might actually get laid if my luck keeps going this way.
He coughed and flushed a little as he looked away.
And to firmly change the subject off your reproductive organs, why did Glory burst into tears when I called her Morning Glory?
I sighed and slumped, my muzzle dipping underwater to blow bubbles, a moment before I rose and explained.
Glory wants us to call her Fallen Glory now. I don't get it. It's like she's willing to die so she doesn't inconvenience others. Just don't get it.
Then I looked at him sharply and took a slow pull of the amber fluid.
What about you?
What about me?
He asked in confusion.
Ever think about changing your name? P21. You could name yourself, Boomer. The Blue Bomb. Maybe see if Scalpel can remove that, whatever it is on your butt, so we can see what your real cutie mark is under it.
I said as I gave him a smile. He sighed and shook his head.
No.
All my friends keep sighing and telling me that.
I grumbled as I narrowed my eyes with a pout.
Why can't they ever say, "Oh yes, Blackjack, you're right. Brilliant, in fact."
I tilted my head back, looking up at the sky and too drunk to care about my stomach falling up. The rain had actually let up a bit.
It'd be so refreshing.
I've thought about it.
He replied, and then quickly added,
The name thing, not the brilliant thing.
"Oh, thanks, P21. Just crush my hopes. Crush them like a tiny, crushable thing that is easily crushed. Like... I blew a raspberry at him.
Some stallions think about names in 99. Who we'd be if we could be some pony else. Our names, our cutie marks.
He hooked his hooves on the edge of the tub and rested his chin upon them.
Fact is, I like being P21. I like that I'm the stallion they were supposed to kill, but couldn't. I can't forget 99. It's a part of me, so I might as well take some strength from it.
I pursed my lips and tapped his forehead.
You think too much. How about you take some of my fun, and I take some of your smarts? And then we'll be, like, unstoppable.
I said with a laugh. The stable security mares peeked out at us. I gave them a sardonic grin, and they disappeared once again.
Ugh. Why do they keep doing that?
No idea,
He said with a chuckle.
but one little piece of advice. When most ponies take a bath, they take their barging off first.
He trotted off to check for more salvage. I blinked, then leaned over the edge of the tub, shouting after him.
Most ponies haven't been shot at as much as I have. I've got a bounty on my head, you know. My head is worth thousands of caps.
I leaned further and further out as I waved my hoof at him.
How much is your head worth, huh?
And with that, I was refamiliarized with the concept of balance as the legless bathtub overturned and sent me sloshing across the crumbling asphalt. The mares by the parking garage just stared in shock.
I have a very, very valuable head.
I muttered to the sky. A few hours later, after a soggy nap in the street, I was dry and miserable as my treacherous body metabolized the alcohol, dehydrated my tissues, and gave me the sensation of having been kicked upside my dumb head. I knew this because Gloria told me in clinical detail what my body was doing to make me feel so miserable. Of course, my head throbbed far too badly to care. Ha! Take that, smart ponies. The fact that I was still feeling shaky after the chems I'd taken to fight Deus didn't help much. We were gathered in the lounge of Stable 89, alone save for the Barpony, who was mixing up something she called the price. She trotted over with a tray, carrying a shot glass and a large bottle of orange fluid. Here you go. Fix you right up.
Are you sure we can't go back to Scalpel's clinic?
I muttered, looking at the glass. It was filled with some kind of red fluid with a raw egg on top, and some sort of reddish-brown stuff sprinkled all over it.
It smells like butt. It's gonna taste like butt too.
When I'd visited the clinic, Scalpel had just given me a look that said, "This isn't chem withdrawal, this is taint eating your heart. Stop helping it!" and tossed me out on the street. She was very good at giving looks like that. She has a standing policy of not treating hangovers, Barpony said brightly. She had the most bizarre cutie mark I'd ever seen or imagined. A hodgepodge of a balloon, streamers, glitter, and a shot glass. A tiny wrapped present, and a mare's outline, all crammed onto her butt. "You drink this one first," she said, pointing to the shot, "and then you drink from the bottle before you throw up. It helps if you pinch your nose shut. I rose to my hooves with a lurch.
I'm going to Scalpels. I'll pay her double.
Glory and P21 pushed me back down, ignoring my whining.
She's dealing with injured ponies now.
P21 said firmly,
You're not injured. Drink.
I sighed and lifted the shot glass.
When I throw up, I'm aiming for you.
I warned him, then downed the spicy, slimy, eggy, salty, tomatoey concoction in one go. There was definitely a greasy sense of something trying to crawl back up my throat. Then I blinked as P21 started to shy away. I held the shot glass out to Barpony.
Not bad. Can I have another?
And thus her legend grows,
Rampage said with a snicker. I'd no idea what she'd done to improve her mood, but I hoped it hadn't involved maiming. The barkeep with the peach coat looked at me with a surprised smile, then went to mix me another while I drank the orangey-tasting liquid. I had to admit, when I finished it off, I was feeling a bit better.
What I want to know is where Caprice is after all this, because I got to tell her that her security stinks. This place might be a lot more fun than Megamart, but I can't believe her only defense was 2 gates and a bunch of mares who were completely outgunned.
I gave a scornful sniff, then noticed that every pony was looking at me funny. What? Were my eyes glowing again? Blackjack, I'm pretty sure that fight last night involved 5 to 10% of the entire population of the Hoof. Deus rounded up dozens of ponies hunting you, and the Pecos called in favors to get 3 other gangs to join in. I don't think even Bottlecap's turrets or gun could have stopped it. P21 pointed out. I snorted and shook my head.
Don't use your fancy mathematics to muddle the issue. If Flank had some decent defenses, neither Deus nor the Pecos would have tried storming it. It wouldn't matter if they could. They'd have gone, nuh-uh, I don't want turret death beams turning me inside out. We'll hide and ambush security when she comes running for the hills. And last night would never have happened.
You wouldn't believe how often I hear that one, Barpony replied as she brought me 3 more prices. I gulped down the first. Glory gave one of the glasses a sniff and immediately looked like she was about to be sick. What do y'all suggest? What would make Flank safer? She'd also brought me more of the orange-flavoured water. It was kinda like Radaway, but not as tasty. I lifted the empty shot glass with my magic and spun it as I tried to think.
First off, one of the best things Bottlecap has are those turrets. Just knowing that they're there probably cuts off a lot of problems. You've got 6 buildings that would give you an excellent field of fire on the ground. You just have to get the turrets, install them, and make sure that every guest knows that doing something stupid gets them shot.
Glory rubbed her nose as I sipped the water. It shouldn't be that hard. A turret is basically a gun, a frame and a spark battery, and then a targeting talisman. If there's any place around here with robots or military weapons, we should find most of what we need.
The second thing is this place's defenses. 1 gate is hard enough to defend, but 2 is a real nightmare. Stables have 1 door for a reason.
I said with a frown as I stirred the contents of the second shot glass with my magic.
Also, that chain link fence might keep some ponies in and out, but the Pecos just blew a nice big hole in the wall, and Deus walked right through it. You need something sturdier. Stacked rubble at least, wagon frames, and then something to keep ponies away except for where you want them. Landmines, maybe.
Landmines aren't hard to set up,
P21 said, looking a touch green as I gulped down the second shot and swished it in my mouth.
But you'd need a lot of them. You'll also want to secure them so that a unicorn can't just disarm them with their magic.
The slimy consistency was a little bit seminal, but not that bad. Had to admit, I loved that spicy bite. I gulped it down and watched him shiver.
How do you do that?
I asked, curious. Drill a hole in the bottom and attach a wire to the detonator. Unicorn sees the mine, disarms its detonation tab, picks it up. Wire rearms the mine, and boom. Okay, I would be letting P21 handle any mines I happen to come across. The real problem is moving rubble around to make a decent barrier. Rampage snorted. It is not like any of those slabs off the exchange are heavy. Pass out some buck and some booze and get working. Be cleared away by supper time. She reached over and grabbed the third shot, sniffing it skeptically. Barpony looked at the four of us oddly as she said, "Yes, that would be very helpful, but..."
But
I finished for her.
it won't mean a thing if Caprice can't get some decent security ponies in place. I don't blame them for not being able to stop both those bunches, but I do blame them for running. You were braver than they were.
Barpony closed her mouth, just blinking in shock.
They need some adequate weapons training. They need to be confident that they can handle risks and deal with problems. I saw the security ponies when we were leaving rooms. They were just standing around and didn't know what to do.
The peach-coated mare just looked from one of us to the next. "Yes, that would all be wonderful, but don't you three have something more important to do?" I blinked. To be honest, the last couple of days had involved running, fighting, running some more, and fighting some more, with interspersed breaks of gloom and depression. Still, she had a point. I had to find this Caprice, assuming she hadn't just abandoned flank, in which case I was going to hand everything over to Barpony and get my caps to pay for decoding EC1101 from her. But for the first time in almost a week, I had something I wanted to do instead of something I had to do.
You know what?
I slapped my hooves on the tabletop before me.
No, I don't. Call it a working vacation. This is the first big slice of civilization I've seen in a while, and if I can make it secure, then I will.
But you haven't even discussed payment. The peach mare stammered as Rampage downed the shot. I wasn't exactly sure what I saw in Barpony's eyes. I just shrugged.
I don't care about that. I just want to do something for a change that doesn't involve me running for my life or killing some pony. Caprice can pay me whatever is fair when she decides to show herself.
I said with a scowl as I looked around the brothel.
Honestly, where is she? I can't believe she's still hiding. Or did she run?
The peach mare just blinked at me as if she thought I was joking or something. Glory looked at me with a worried little smile as she said, "Blackjack, Caprice is..." Unfortunately, that was the moment that Rampage's stomach decided that it didn't like the price, and that the drink should be returned. The rest of the stomach's contents, in some show of solidarity, decided to follow it out. Vast quantities of semi-digested meat splashed over P21's back, and he froze in place, twitching. The striped pony scrubbed her mouth with the back of her hoof.
That is disgusting. How the hell did you swallow 3 of those?
She said as she pushed a hooful of Mintels into her mouth and chewed vigorously. P21's bright blue glare cut back over his shoulder at Rampage, promising explosive retribution. I staggered back and then rose to my hooves, waving a forehoof at the stench.
Well, I guess that's that. Why don't I meet with her security in an hour or two in the parking garage? See if Caprice will spring for the parts Glory needs in the exchange and, get a mop?
I suggested. Good idea, Barpony said, still finding something about the conversation funny. Why don't you use room B10 in the living quarters while I show P21 to the shower? Eat something and finish freshening up. I know Caprice won't mind. I'll pass on the message to the security ponies to get ready.
Good.
I replied with a nod. My head still wasn't quite over my last bout of inebriation.
And let Caprice know that I really want to meet with her, okay? For one thing, I still need to get paid for those contracts.
I looked around in concern. Every pony was looking at me oddly again. Well, except P21. He was looking at vomit.
What?
I insisted. Glory just sighed, shaking her head with a smile. Just... never mind. I had to admit, Stable 89's layout was a lot different than 99's. For one, it was cleaner, with brighter light and no faint tang of mould and leaking sewage. Since Stable 89 was apparently designed for eggheads, there was lab equipment in every room. I passed numerous storage rooms with shelves holding all kinds of chemicals and arcane science materials in jars and containers. In contrast, their security station was barely larger than a closet, and I couldn't even see a sign for an armory. I could only guess that when Stable 89 had been taken over, the lack of facilities translated to a lack of security. In 99, security had an entire floor to ourselves. a room for baton training and target practice, a jail for detention and interrogation. Either Stable-Tech had assumed that a bunch of scientists wouldn't need law enforcement, or it was a pretty severe oversight. The living quarters were divided into sectors A, B, and C. I supposed it was an egghead thing. A was dedicated to sexing, but it seemed like the other two were for the ponies living and working here. I found B10 and stepped in, wondering if all the living quarters were unlocked, if Caprice had already set it aside, or if the security clearance in my pip-buck opened it up, even though it was for another stable. It didn't really matter. Aside from an alcove with a work table in one corner, I might as well have been home. Home. After everything with P21, I thought that Stable 99 would be branded a horrible nightmare, and it was. Yet seeing this neat little steel can, I had to admit that I felt a pang of longing for that hole in the ground. I wanted to play cards with rivets. I wanted to try and tease midnight into my bed. Oh, goddesses, how I needed some pony in my bed. I missed Mum telling me what to do. It was dull and thoughtless and monstrous, but it had been my life. I flopped down on the bed, feeling odd little twinges in my horn and head. Hangover? Taint? Both?
Oh, I could just imagine what Mum would say. Blackjack, you're neglecting your duties and yourself.
I sighed as I rolled onto my back, loving that wonderful, familiar, mass-produced Stable-Tech mattress. You sleep on one, and you've slept on them all. Funny thing was that the idea of helping Flank be safer just seemed good to me. I might have first thought of it as some kind of drug den, but having been here and experienced the joy of eating new food, or the music in mixers, or even the thought of sex in Stable 69, I felt that the Wasteland needed Flank. Something to look forward to. Something to want that was more than mere survival. I just hoped Caprice wasn't a complete tool when I finished setting up security. Ugh. I was helping this mare, and she couldn't even shake my hoof with a thank you. Crap. Now I was starting to get bored. In fact, technically, I was waiting, which was worse than just boredom. I still had that other memory orb from Mirrormare.
No. Fuck no.
I said as I sat up and smacked my temples with both forehooves.
No more orbs, Brain. They are not healthy for you. They make you sad or make me wake up all alone or wearing a bomb. So no orbs.
Then I blinked and rubbed my face as I realised that the idea hadn't gone away.
If I use one, I'll wake up, I don't know, with a tattoo. Or 2 centuries from now. Or pregnant. Or something.
I looked over at my saddlebags. Tick. 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 I let out a long sigh of disgust.
This is going to end badly, Brain. Very badly.
I floated my bags over and set them next to me.
Okay, just warning myself. This is a bad idea. Last chance to do something sensible, like sleep, masturbate, something.
Nope, still wanting to check the orb. I sighed and touched my horn to it. Wow, no password or anything. Refreshing. My body was okay. Those were wings. That was a... Pegasus stallion. He was wearing some kind of armour from head to hoof. Not armoured barding, but actual plate armour. He had the taste of chocolate in his mouth, and his nose itched terribly. The place seemed to be some kind of fancy tent. A large display showed 2 train tracks and some sort of rail yard. There were dozens, maybe hundreds of train cars all lined up on the model. There were all kinds of ponies standing around looking grave and talking in low voices. My host carefully snuck something out from under his wing and, under the pretense of adjusting a strap of armour, popped an entire cupcake in his mouth. "You keep doing that and you're not going to fit in your armour," a mare said in a soft, teasing tone. He looked over, and both our hearts stopped as we looked into the bright teal eyes of a beautiful dark alicorn. I was stunned by her beauty and terribly embarrassed. My host choked down the cupcake in one gulp, fighting the urge to cough as he returned to attention. Then a dark wing stretched out.
Oh, look. Crumbs.
The softest feathers imaginable flicked them from his lips. I'm fairly sure both my host and I could have died right at that moment. I was used to Princess Luna being a painting on a wall or a picture in a book. The concept of Luna being sent to the moon for a millennium, only to be returned for a few years, and then assuming control of Equestria, was some dry chapters in a book for me. Respectable and tragic, certainly, but she wasn't real. Not until now. I never could have imagined Princess Luna appearing as a mare a bit older than me. That intelligent, even calculating look in her teal eyes that seemed to take a measure of everything they looked upon. Her easy smile, friendly yet also mysterious, as if you couldn't quite be sure what she was smiling about. No pony could have told me of the silvery lustre of her dusky blue mane, like a beam of moonlight in the middle of the drab tent, nor of the delicate taper of her horn that caught the light just so, and made it appear as though a star lighted on the tip when she moved. Suddenly, I was in the presence of something more, so very much more, than a worthless pony like myself. I wanted to rage at the nobles chatting softly with one another and say, Look at her! If you do what you do, then you are going to lose this. The flap of the tent opened, and Princess Celestia entered. I'd heard her described as a ruler. I admit I always imagined her as an overmare. I expected something small, petty, fussy, and ruling, because the law said so. With Celestia before me, I mentally bowed along with my host. It was reflexive. Had she made a request, I would have carried it out that instant. An aura of maternal kindness seemed to wash from her and touch every pony in her presence. Her rainbow mane constantly shifted in an ethereal breeze that I only felt in my imagination. In her sad gaze was a love absolute and unconditional. No pony had ever possessed eyes like that, and none ever would again. Of that, I was certain. You lost this? You lost this? For coal and pride and fear? You sacrificed this? I wanted to scream at these ponies, and the princesses themselves. I wanted to show them this empty world that would follow them. No price, none, was worth the loss of these princesses. The world was less without them. My host, however, did not move a feather. I swore his lips still tingled from Luna's playful brush, but all his attention and every sense were focused on Celestia. Celestia's own features were worried, like the sun hidden behind a wall of clouds. Luna immediately approached her.
They said no?
Celestia took a deep breath and shook her head.
Your Majesty, this goes beyond insult. That coal was paid for nearly 2 years ago. It is illegal for the zebras to halt shipments due to a political disagreement.
A fancily dressed mare snorted in disdain.
The Caesar remains adamant. The coal will not be released until his government can verify the legality of our claims,
Celestia said softly as she looked at the models.
His representative also hinted that we should reevaluate our own gemstone embargo.
It's a ploy, Your Majesty. The Caesar is just using this as an excuse to extort more beneficial contractual terms in exchange for our gemstones.
A unicorn stallion harumphed.
They are simply being stubborn. We can't just bend neck.
A pony wearing more business-like attire coughed politely.
It may be moot, Your Majesty. Zebras do not need gemstones to survive. Hippocampus Energy estimates that, even after cutting back power supplies to 40%, we can only keep power going for another month. After that, Equestria will go dark. Some pony remind me whose great idea it was to build an infrastructure on an energy source Equestria doesn't have.
Princess Luna asked in a faintly sarcastic tone. Only Princess Celestia smiled at the attempted humour. The rest of the ponies in the tent looked nervous. Pegasus in fancy formal dress tapped her hooves.
Well, we have the guard here. We're in the right. Just take the coal and let the Caesar choke on it. If their king can't govern, why should we suffer?
Murmurs of agreement grew. Celestia simply looked sad. Then a young voice said from the corner of the tent,
That would be a terrible idea.
Every eye in the tent turned to a unicorn stallion, who seemed to realise that this was not his place to make a comment of any sort. He was the same age as me, pale of hide and with a straw yellow mane and an oddly yellow horn. His cutie mark was a yellow teardrop. I hoped it didn't signify him wetting himself. He certainly looked like he wanted to. Yet Celestia smiled to him.
And you are?
A handsome unicorn stallion with a compass rose on his flank glared down at the young stallion and then quickly chuckled.
Oh, don't mind him, Your Majesty. He's still learning his place.
And clearly his place was to shut the fuck up. I'd gotten plenty of looks like that from Mum. The white unicorn with the yellow drop then pressed his lips together and stepped past the larger.
The Caesar is the protector of the zebra people. He's not a king, he's a protector. When the Wonderbolt extracted the hostages from the Barbary coast, it was an insult to his ability to protect people in his lands. He has to restore his respectability. Quiet, you!
The handsome stallion muttered with a glare before giving a suave smile at the princess.
Don't mind him, Your Majesties. He spent a few years in their land and he thinks himself an expert.
Perhaps, but I want to hear all options. Continue. The elder unicorn looked like he just downed a shot of Barpony's price. The yellow-maned unicorn swallowed.
This Caesar, since he rose to power, he's suffered many setbacks. Monster attacks, drought, and now this hostage crisis. He needs a win, Your Majesty. Give him the gemstone concessions he wants, and when things calm down, they can be renegotiated.
The Pegasus mare gave an outraged little snort.
That's treasonous talk, putting zebra interests ahead of our own. We can simply take the coal. And the Caesar will fight back. He has to. That's his sacred duty.
He looked around at all the assembled ponies.
I know it'll take longer and be more difficult, but I'm sure it'll be better than violence.
More disdainful and dismissive talk. Listen to him, I wanted to scream. Then he blurted loudly,
Please, listen to me.
Apparently this broke so many rules of protocol that everyone did.
The zebras have a word for this. It's not a fight, it's not a battle, it is war. They use it when their entire country faces terrible threats. Flights of dragons, swarms of manticores. They've done wars before, where every zebra is drawn into the fight. And they are terrible things. Please, don't resort to war to try and solve this problem when there are other means.
There was a fragile, momentary pause. Then the unicorn with the compass rose on his flank gave a disdainful snort.
War? Hardly sounds very serious. Let the Caesar bring his war. Let him. I doubt the zebras have the stomach for a real drawn-out battle. I gave them 6 months before they beg us to take their dirty rocks.
A stallion harumphed. A mare laughed.
3 months, and they'll give us their minds too. Please, they're only striped mules. Once they face our magic and flyers, they will cower and beg for peace. 1 month at the most.
The unicorn stallion with the compass rose said with a cocky little grin, earning cheers from the onlookers. Only the business ponies, the guards, and the princesses weren't laughing. The business ponies looked at their clipboards. Your Majesty, I can't talk about fighting our politics. I can only tell you that without the coal, our economy will come to a crashing halt. Half of Philadelphia's workforce is on furlough. Manhattan is dark for most of the night. That's right now. If we can't get coal, we won't be able to ship food to the large cities. It'll be more than inconvenience. It will be a famine. The cheers and talking died out. Princess Celestia smiled at the assembled ponies.
If you, gentle ponies, would please give us a moment alone.
There were mutters and talks as the aristocrats and business ponies were funneled out of the tent, leaving only the guard. Celestia looked as if she was going to cry once they'd left.
How has it come to this? Taking what we want? Fighting? War.
Celestia rubbed her eyes.
I'd forgotten that word. It's been so long. That young stallion was mistaken. It's not a zebra word. We invented it when you fought me.
Luna replied softly.
Wire. Wasn't that how it was said back then? Something like that. I also remember how much I hated it.
She took a deep breath, looking at her sister.
What do you think, Luna?
Princess Celestia asked gently. Luna sighed as well.
I don't really see us having much choice. We've been at this for months now. It's not a question of if we want to fight. We have to have the coal. We could agree to all the Caesar's demands, and it could take months to resume shipments.
She looked towards the tent flaps.
I wish we'd had that young stallion when this started. Who is he? One of my nephew's children,
Celestia replied with a disgruntled sigh.
Blue Blood saddled him with some horrid name. Brandy Blood?
Another one, and Blue Blood actually brought one of his offspring with him to court. Luna looked disdainfully at the tent flap.
It amazes me that any mayor would let him into their bed, yet his bastards clearly show some success in that regard.
You almost did, Celestia said with a half smile, making Luna flush before Celestia continued.
His mother was a friend and died last month. He returned for her funeral. I suggested to Blue Blood that the boy might enjoy court, bring him back from his virtual exile in the Zebra Lands.
Celestia frowned.
Another good intention gone horribly wrong.
Luna looked sympathetic.
You couldn't have known that the Caesar would take our rescue so personally. I should have, Luna. I've ruled for 1,000 years. His father was flexible, and his grandfather. He's more in his great-great-grandfather's demeanour.
Celestia sighed, shaking her head.
Sometimes it's so hard keeping them all straight over the centuries. I thought the rescue was a simple, elegant solution. I feared delay would kill the hostages. And now, having lost the Wonderbolts saved lives at the loss of their own. No pony can do more than that,
Luna said as she put her wing around her sister.
No hope with diplomacy? Negotiations have danced around in circles since then. The solution should be obvious, but for some reason we simply can't agree. They need the gems desperately. They're needed for the most potent weapons against the monsters in their lands. But we can't give in on our gemstone embargo. It's the only leverage we have.
She rubbed her eyes again.
I miss the days when my biggest concern was a snoring dragon smog problem.
Parasprites in Philadelphia. She gave her sister a sad smile.
Want to take over? I could do with a long vacation.
Luna laughed.
Not for all the sugar cubes in Equestria. Besides, I know you're not serious. It'd take a lot more than this to make you quit, Tia.
True, Princess Celestia said with a soft sigh.
So then, this is how it starts. I only hope the Caesar realizes how dire our need is and reconsiders.
She levitated a scroll of parchment and a pen, deftly writing with the practiced ease of 1,000 years. Then she coiled it up and approached my host and a unicorn guard beside him.
Take this executive command to Captain Lighthorn. He is to take custody of the coal shipments. Take care to keep casualties to an absolute minimum. Understood?
Yes, ma'am, the guard said in unison, the unicorn hovering the instructions as they saluted and trotted out of the tent.
Can you believe that?
My host muttered.
Intense.
We don't talk about the princess's business, Cupcake,
the unicorn muttered beside my host. Then she looked a touch worried.
But yes, that was intense.
Outside the tents, the nobles had gathered in little herds, while off to the side Blue Blood was administering a rather physical education of his own as he smacked the straw-maned young stallion over and over again.
How dare you, you little embarrassment! You inconvenient little squirt!
The young stallion cried and protected his head.
Please, father, I only wanted to help her.
Don't you dare call me that, you hear me? You have no father,
Blue Blood growled. Cover for me, Cupcake said as he made a swift detour. The brown Pegasus thrust himself hard between Blue Blood and the young stallion. Excuse me, sir, but you are distressing the gentlefolk. Blue Blood scowled at his son, and then glared at the guard before raising his snout into the air and trotting away to make his apologies. Cupcake just sighed and shook his head before looking down at the stallion.
Say, you alright? What's your name, kid?
He looked up at Cupcake, and I felt myself start. His eyes weren't yellow, but a brilliant gold. Blood trickled down between them from a small gash on his brow beside his odd, metallic gold-coloured horn. Despite his tears, his gaze was steady and held a confidence that shook me.
Thank you. I'm fine.
He said as his intense golden eyes stared into mine.
And my name is Goldenblood.
Coming out of the memory, I immediately jumped to my hooves. Okay, more accurately, I fell flat on my face, intending to jump to my hooves. Still, I looked around for the bounty hunter, monster, pony, cyborg ghosts that had surely sprung upon me while in the orb. All I saw and heard was the glow of the lights and the whir of the vent fans. And then I slowly lifted the small, glowing orb. Tears trickled down my cheeks as I stared at the little cloud of light within. Priest had tried to explain it to me, that memory orbs were more than just experiences. They were testaments. Proof of the existence of ponies centuries ago that had shaped the world today. They were more than just curiosities or battles or relationships that played out in better times. They were lessons of just what we had lost and how very far we had to go to reclaim it. I pressed the orb to my chest, holding as tightly as possible the most precious object I could imagine in all of Equestria. 4 hours later, I collapsed against the concrete rail on the top floor of the parking garage. My training session with the security mares, and I use the term because there wasn't a single stallion among them, had been an unmitigated disaster. They could shoot and they could swing a baton, but they didn't have the attitude.
That was terrible. Just terrible. Teaching is hard.
Below me, the cleanup of last night's wreckage was just getting started. Slabs of the exchange were being cut free by morning, by Fallen Glory's disintegration bolts or small blasts of dynamite. Rampage and a few hardy stallions would slip into straps and start pulling. Unicorns levitated lengths of pipe under the slabs to roll them along. Smaller pieces were heaped up along the fence perimeter. It'd take a while, but with every pony working together, at least the foundations would be laid. Apparently, Caprice had told all the visiting stallions that no pony was getting laid until it was cleaned up. I'd never seen such hard work in all my life. "Oh, I didn't think it was so bad," Barpony said as she pulled out 2 sunrise sarsaparillas from her saddlebags. She'd stopped by to listen and stayed for the whole lecture and even tried to shoot. She was hopeless with a gun, though. I'd given up on finding her name. She seemed too amused by the question to give me a straight answer. Below us came the sounds of shots and the occasional crash of an empty bottle shattering. I hadn't anticipated that many of them didn't know how to use a gun and swung their batons like they were afraid of hurting themselves.
They were scared of me.
I muttered, glancing at her.
Worse, I think I sounded like Mum and made them feel like they were worthless at the same time.
You just have to realize that most of the ponies here ain't exactly brave warrior folk. They're prostitutes that rotate their security duties, mares who are trying to kick dash and dust addiction, and fillies desperate not to fall into another trap, and stallions who sign up just to try to use it to get free drugs and sex.
Which were you?
I asked, and then winced.
Don't answer that.
Prostitute, but I have a lot of side jobs now, she said without hesitation or shame. And you are so cute when you get 2 hooves in your mouth. I blushed. I wasn't sure if it was her highlighting my awkwardness or her flirting. It definitely made me chuckle, though.
What I wonder is how Flanks lasted so long without falling before.
The fact is that Flank's always been vulnerable. We keep everything nice and happy, and we hope that if some pony gets out of line, some pony like you'll step in. And it's worked for years. The Pecos were our unofficial security contractors, paid in booze, dash, and sex. Sidewinder could have taken us over if he'd had a little more sense and a little less whiskey. I caught a momentary haunted look on her face, but then she caught me looking and smiled.
Well, not anymore.
I muttered as I looked at the street. Even the rain hadn't washed away all the blood. The bodies were still being dragged out into the swampy ruins of the town.
So, sooner or later, some pony is gonna try something.
Again, that strange expression. I think you did better than you realize, Barpony said firmly. I was surprised, to be honest. I didn't expect you to talk about restraint so much.
Why? Because I'm so bad at it?
I asked with a grin and got a nod in return. I sighed.
Well, I guess I'm a hypocrite on top of everything else. Still, Mum always taught me that if you can get someone to do what you want by asking nicely, then ask nicely. Then escalate. A security officer that goes for their baton or gun first is a thug with a uniform.
And is that what you do? Barpony asked.
Most ponies I've run into are either nice or pre-escalated. Those bounties go a long way towards that.
I commented ruefully, listening to the pop of small arms fire.
When they're able to put themselves in harm's way, they should be much better at security work. I can tell they're tough mares. It's just a step from looking out for yourself to looking out for others.
And just like that, I was being kissed. Sweet goddesses, I was getting kissed. My eyes went so wide that I felt like they would just roll out of their sockets. My rear legs gave out as I fell soundly onto my haunches and felt her tongue doing things inside my mouth that I could barely imagine. When she finally gave me a breath, I felt myself blushing from horn to hooves.
What?
Then I shook myself hard.
What was that for?
I didn't want to have not done that, she said as she turned and curled her silky tail around my throat. Now come on.
Huh? Where are we going?
I asked as I trotted after her. Then she gave me a look, and I quivered down to my hooves.
Oh.
When we finally took a break, I felt good. No, screw that. I felt great. Truly and honestly great. For once, I didn't have any regrets about leaving my nice, safe, ugly life in Stable 99. From my rear emanated a buttery goodness that spiked through my entire body. Our limbs were tangled together in the middle of my bed. I still had fluttery contractions twitching in my hindquarters. She was watching me with her amused pink eyes, reflecting the colours like stars.
I felt like I was a virgin there for a bit,
I said, getting my breath back. You mean you weren't? She asked with a teasing smile. I winced and she gave a soft murr as her hoof stroked my cheek. I'm teasing. You were actually very sweet.
Why is it that you make sweet sound like virgin?
I asked as I knit my brows together in worry. Because virgins are sweet too, she said archly. I sighed, closing my eyes with a deep breath.
You're taking advantage of my afterglow. No fair.
Fairness don't exist in the Wasteland, she said as she licked my cheek, making me shiver. Another?
I think I'll melt if you do.
Then I'll just bottle you.
Liquid security?
Security cola.
I'm not sweet enough for that.
I beg to differ, she said as she nibbled my ear. You are very sweet. Okay, blushing now. Unfortunately, I also had some work to do.
Why don't we take a little break? You can go ask your boss when she plans to meet with me, and I can go make sure things are working out above.
I gave a little chuckle.
You know, the longer I'm here, the more I like this place.
She paused as if considering me, almost measuring me, and then grinned. Well, that's good. That's the point of flank. Fun for everyone, she said as she stood and gave herself a shake. You go ahead. Save up some energy for round 2. 3, 4, 5. I nearly danced down the hall of the stable, not caring who saw me or what they thought. Maybe it was because I was helping ponies because I wanted to. Maybe it was the fact that Miss Barpony could tickle my nethers like I'd never imagined. But I was feeling really good. I knew I got all kinds of looks, but I didn't care. Did not care. Didn't care. Did not care. Outside, I found Glory working her magic with the machinery, getting the frames together. Given all that she'd been through, she seemed to be throwing herself into her work. When she spotted me, she pressed her lips together and scowled. Oh look, she emerges. Okay, sad Glory I could handle. Ridiculously loyal Glory I could deal with. But where did pissed off and snippy Glory come from?
Are you alright?
Of course I'm all right. I've just been working my tail off while you've been getting your labia lubed, she said as she grabbed a wrench and firmly tightened a nut. She spat the tool back into a toolbox beside the frame. I sure hope she was spectacular. She apparently costs a hoof and a half an hour.
Hey, you don't have to talk about her like that,
I said sharply with a scowl. Her angry eyes started to tear up, but she scrubbed them away before I sighed and put a hoof on her shoulder.
What's wrong with what we're doing? I thought you were okay with making these turrets.
I am, she said with a sigh. It's just... Why couldn't you have asked us about this first? I don't like helping Caprice.
I'm not that thrilled about helping her either, but there are good ponies here that deserve our help. Why shouldn't we help them?
Because she is a drug dealer who now has a monopoly on the addicts of the hoof, Glory said sourly. I sighed.
Glory, it's not like that. She can keep the price high and...
And she can keep the price low too, Glory responded. I don't buy the argument that all those scavengers in the ruins got their drugs from those outside suppliers. I don't believe she'd undercut her profits through ethics. They're lingering here, Blackjack. And I know Scalpel's trying to treat more addicts, but I think she'd be happy with even one additional patient. I had my doubts too. Barpony seemed to know what was going on. Perhaps she could let me know if Glory was right, or convince her that this was okay. I just felt creepiness itching along my spine.
I'm sorry I sprang this on you. Is there anything I can do to help?
She sighed, looking at me as she seemed to shuffle through the list of things she needed. Targeting talismans. Without them, these are just weapon display stands. She looked out over the ruins of Frankfurt. There's a Robronca retailer somewhere south of here. It might have working talismans. I checked my pip buck, and sure enough, a little navigation icon popped up, along with the note, Objective, recover targeting talismans. Underneath it was another, Objective, deliver flanks mail. I blinked and started.
What? I'd completely forgotten about that one.
I frowned and looked at the note.
Can't I just give the mail to some pony here and let them hand it out?
Of course it didn't answer. There were a dozen arrows on my map around the town. Most of them were in flank itself, but not all of them. Wondering how it knew the locations was driving me crazy.
Okay, well it looks like I got 2 reasons to go out now. Want to come with me when I do?
I asked, and her mood brightened before my eyes. I suppose I have to. Do you even know what a targeting talisman looks like? She said with a small smile, returning to the glory I knew.
It's a talisman with a target on it,
I offered. She laughed, shaking her head softly. Okay, come and get me when you're ready to go. Victory. I wandered around, looking for the ponies the letters were addressed to. One to the butcher in the trough, another to the robot-masked ponies in mixers, who apparently never left their armoured booth and required me to feed them through a slot. I wondered how they got food in there, or went to the bathroom. Okay, I'm not wondering anymore. 2 were to Scalper from former patients, 1 to Caprice. I'd deliver it when I finally met her. 1 was to Octavia. What, I was delivering mail to dead ponies now? At least I knew where her room was, and once the letter was inside, my pip-buck dutifully informed me that this letter was officially delivered. I looked at the yellowed paper envelope nestled between the bones on the bed. It was 200 years old. It really wasn't wrong to read, right? The old pale stallion chuckled softly in my ear.
Tisk, tisk. Tampering with the mail. That's a serious offense.
I ignored the amused hallucination as I tore open the envelope. I wasn't prying. I was reading it to Octavia. Or rather her bones. Okay, I'm getting away from my creepy thoughts now.
Dearest Octavia, I'm so glad to hear that you've found someplace to rest your hooves. I'm very sorry that Pinkie Pie was so upset about your charity concert.
I tried talking to her about it, but she treats it like a personal snub. She's so odd these days. I can't tell what the matter is with her, but she's changed. I suppose we all have, to some extent, but some days it's like I don't even know her anymore. Regardless, I'm sure that with time she'll come around. She still fondly remembers the pony pokey your quartet played for her all those years ago. However, I was not simply writing to offer my sympathies. I wanted to follow up on you after your procedure. Are you noticing any ill effects or differences? I recall how unpleasant the experience was for you, and I don't want you to feel abandoned.
I glanced at the terminal. Considering her recorded message to Pwn 3, it was clear that she had been. She'd never gotten this letter. She'd died alone with her instrument.
I hope that sometime in the future we can get together. I rarely have time to get away from Canterlot, but I'd like to speak with you more in person. Oh, and there's a certain mayor named Glass who may poke around asking about what happened. I hope that you can keep everything in the strictest of confidences.
She's such a nosy little thing. Sincerely, Rarity.
That made me blink. The Ministry Mayor of the Ministry of Image checking up on Octavia? Did she have a career resurrection spell or something? From the taped-up cabinet came a soft thunk, making me jump to my hooves. I frowned, looking at the tape on the rusty doors. Carefully, I pulled the tape away and opened them. Everything was exactly as I'd left. No, wait. The pin that had held the bow had fallen out of the back of the cabinet. I honestly had no idea how to play an instrument. Music was something other ponies did, and I enjoyed. The only magic my horn could muster was used to kill things. It wasn't my place as security to try and make something beautiful. I looked at the black hairs in the bow, and then at the strings. I sighed softly. This was stupid. I should be doing things, helping, not staring at a musical instrument I had no hope of playing. Still.
Oh, I hope I don't break it or something.
I slowly levitated out the surprisingly heavy instrument and set it on its peg. I looked at the pictures taped inside the doors and carefully stood on my rear hooves. I rested my left forehoof on the strings at the top, right forehoof pinching the bow behind my right fetlock. I pressed the black bowstring to the wires and dragged it slowly across. The slow, deep note filled the dirty little apartment with a single mournful tone. Carefully, I reversed the motion and played another note and another. I couldn't call the sounds of me soaring back and forth music, but I wanted to continue. Slowly, the instrument seemed to say. Slowly, no need to rush. I carefully ran the bow across other strings, my ears picking out the different tones as they rose and fell with each of the 4 strings. I had no idea what I was playing, if I was playing at all. I simply couldn't stop. Not right now as I dragged the bow back and forth. This was noise, not specific notes or music, but even then, it was beautiful noise. It took the sight of P21 watching me with his wide-eyed stare before I stopped, flushing.
Oh, sorry. I got distracted.
Blackjack? You can play? He demanded in shock.
I can't. I didn't.
I blurted as I looked at the pictures inside the cabinet.
I was just copying her.
He looked incredulous as he stared at me. Well, you fooled me. I mean, I couldn't say what you were playing exactly, but it sounded good. I extended the bow to him.
Why don't you try?
He looked skeptical, but copied my stance. He held the instrument awkwardly and dragged the bow across the strings with an anemic little noise that made me wince. Yeah, no wonder he'd been staring. If I sounded like that playing, I'd stare too, wondering if I should put the bullet in me or him.
That was nice,
I said, forcing a grin and letting out a mental sigh, glad he'd finished. If you say so. Still, I'm impressed you got it in tune and everything, he said as he carefully put it back in the cabinet. Glory told me you were going to go out looking for targeting talismans. When I nodded, he continued, I want to go with you and see if we can't pick up some landmines from Deus's camp.
Are you sure that's safe? I'm pretty sure Rampage didn't kill all the ponies he sent into flank.
Maybe, but I know he kept a lot of things locked up. And I just don't have the mines to really make this place secure. I'll need a few crates of the things, he said, glancing to the window. Besides, I think folks here might be glad for the break. I think we're freaking them out a little.
What do you mean?
I frowned, worried.
We haven't done anything.
Haven't done anything? He arched a brow. You apparently ran in here dripping bloody foam. You then blew up a factory. That was followed by blowing up the number 2 Reaper in the entire hoof.
And today we're fortifying the place. It probably looks to them like we're taking over.
That's ridiculous!
I snorted.
4 ponies couldn't take over a town.
He didn't laugh. Blackjack, one of us could if she wanted to. Have you seen Rampage today? She's hauling around rocks with the strength of 10 ponies. Heck, with the way things are now, Glory could if she could fly. And with you in the mix... Blackjack, I'm thinking leaving sooner is better than later.
I sighed with a scowl. What was the point of saving this place if some pony else came along and just took over? I wanted flanks secure.
When I'm sure that everything will be okay, then we can go. Maybe even tomorrow if we're lucky.
Or the day after that. What was the rush?
If that's the plan.
He said with a sigh.
Still, if we're going out, we should leave soon. I'd rather explore the ruins with daylight rather than at night.
Yeah, and I have mail to deliver out there,
I said as I lifted my remaining letters. He looked a little concerned.
You know, you can probably just leave them with Caprice and let her handle them.
Tell that to this thing!
I snorted, waving my pip-buck at him. He just smiled, rolling his eyes and shaking his head as he stepped out. I sighed and returned to the opened cabinet, looking at the picture of the grey pony with such poisoned confidence. How sad for her to end in this lonely room. I reached out and plucked each string with a hoof, smiling at the clear tones before closing the doors.
End of part 1. Music time. Here's the Wasteland Wailers with Mail It In. Enjoy, people.